All right. Hello, everyone. This is Coach Busy, mental performance coach here at Milwaukee Stang, presenting another theme of the month. For the month of February, I wanted to make the theme building confidence. So, why building confidence for February? I think that for the months of December and January, a lot of the focus probably of practices was just getting ready for those first couple tournaments. For most teams under the 18s, it was a lot of maybe 1 or 2 day tournaments and a lot of practices, kind of getting used to your teammates, getting used to new coaches, which is why I wanted to do the championship mindset for the month of January, just to start thinking about some of these things. And I think for February, it's important to start the process of building confidence because February is going to be a busier month. It's the start of more 3-day tournaments with President's Day, preparing for qualifiers next month. So it's really important to start translating a lot of what we're doing in practice to games, physically with drills, but also mentally too. So, building confidence. I think that there are two kind of key ways to focus on this month. The one is building on the work you put in practice. So, what are you doing in practice that can translate to games? Like I said, in terms of your physical drills, but also mentally, how can you do that? And two is maximizing practice time to build confidence and ultimately create success. And I think these are really important to keep in mind as we go through and kind of what I'll talk about in terms of what the activity is as well. So the way that we're going to do this and the way we're going to kind of conceptualize this is using imagery. Imagery is maybe a word that some of you have heard of before, maybe not, but it's essentially kind of using our imagination. So I like to phrase it as using our mindset to imagine we're in a different setting in order to prepare for future performance. So a lot of really elite athletes use imagery just by watching film because you're kind of watching a performance you've done already and hoping to put yourself back into that performance. Some athletes just kind of lay in bed and imagine a performance to start building confidence. I think it can be done at home, in the car, before a match. But our focus is really actually going to be how can we use imagery at practice to build confidence. I believe that using it at practice can help prepare us for matches in a tournament, just the same way physical preparation does. So I'm going to backtrack for a second. I really want to kind of explain why practice time I think is really important to use it. I think often some athletes show up for big tournaments and not as much for practice. Some athletes are the opposite. They kind of get anxious at tournaments and feel more comfortable at practice. I think in order to sort of merge these, I think the focus should be on one, the practice setting being way less pressure. You're not playing against another team, you're not in an opposing gym, you're not having like spectators watching. Really, you're kind of just with your team and your coaches. So it really should be a setting where you can practice a lot of these things and practice skills that you really want to work on. So this is why I want to introduce it at practice. So the three sort of ways that we're going to talk about doing this heading into the worksheet I have for the month is number one, making any drill feel game-like. So a lot of your coaches are probably putting you in game-like situations in drills, which is really important. It's just as important to match your mindset with the mindset you would have in a game, the way that you're probably matching your physical play to your physical play that you would in a game, if that makes sense. So I think you can basically make any drill feel game-like to start to build the confidence that you want to have in a game. For instance, if you're scrimmaging 6-on-6 in a practice, you can simply use imagery and imagine that the other half of your team you're playing against is an opposing team. So if we're going 6-on-6, I got sync players on my side. I can imagine the other side is like First Alliance or something, or really any other team that you're playing against. And then you can start to build up the confidence of playing against another team at practice. So when you do it in a tournament, you're going to be used to it. Same thing if you're doing really just any old serve receive drill. Let's say serve receive is something that you kind of struggle with in matches. You get a little anxious about it. We'll take a really simple serve receive drill in practice, like butterfly, and imagine that you're serve receiving in a match instead. Start to match that intensity that you would feel in a match and in a setting that's a little more calm. but also your skill. So if you're imagining that the ball you're getting bowled to really easily is just a serve from another team, in your head, you can kind of pretend like, I'm going to pretend this is a serve from another team. And then you see yourself pass it right to target. You start to build the confidence that you're doing these skills in practice and it can translate to a game. So making any drill feel game-like. The other way to do it is focusing on lower confidence skills and then watching yourself succeed in practice. So I think it's really important, like I kind of just talked about the serve receive, in practice to watch yourself have successes. You should be getting a lot of reps in practice, and it would be really hard to make mistakes at every single rep that you take. Really focus on the times you do succeed in practice and imagine that you're doing that in a game as well. So when it comes to a game and you do make a mistake, you can remember, well, I did this in practice and the next ball I got. And the third one is focusing on high confidence skills to build confidence. I'm really big on not just talking to athletes about the things that they want to work on and the things they struggle with, but the things that they're good at too. I think a lot of athletes avoid that because this is a team sport. They don't want to come off in a certain way. I totally understand that, but I think building confidence on top of the confidence that you have kind of sets the base to bring in those skills that maybe you struggle at. So I think it's okay to watch yourself succeed in like a scrimmage at practice, doing something you do really well, and imagine you're doing that really well in the tournament. It's just going to translate even better. So those three things are the things I want you guys to focus on in practices this month. And the way we're going to do that is using the worksheet I have on the Google Drive. So it says great players practice how they play. Great players also mentally prepare and practice the way they would in a game. So we're not just preparing our physical skills for game-like situations, we're preparing our mindset for game-like situations as well. So a really simple way you guys can do this, and I have an example that I made. Let's say you practice on February 7th and you decided to use imagery in a serve receive drill. You know that in the last tournament you really struggled. You really want to make yourself feel way more confident in a game-like situation. So you guys were doing butterfly and you said, I'm going to pretend it's match point in the championship match and I was getting the serve receive ball. Even if it's just a simple bowl, even if it's your coach underhand tossing it or someone on your team serving it from the 10-foot line, I don't think it matters if you can match your mindset and pretend that it's actually a game-like situation. So I said, I imagine it was match point in the championship match and I was getting the serve receive ball. I felt confident and relaxed. So starting to bridge those sort of things and preparing for games physically, obviously important, but doing it mentally too is I think just as important. So think about the ways that you want to start to do that in practice this month and jot them down once after every practice. And if you fill out all of them, if you have more practices than the squares, turn it over, go on the back, add some more. You can even do this into the rest of the year. I think it's super helpful. I think it's also really important. So the next steps, keep these sheets, reflect on them throughout the month, use them after every practice, keep them going into tournaments. If you are someone who struggles, let's say maybe with defense, and you know you had a couple good practices where you just were really great at defense and you made it feel really good, read through it on your way to a tournament. Read through the words you wrote that you felt confident and take yourself back to that mindset. So when you're in a tournament, you can remember that you did this and you felt really good about it. I think ultimately using imagery, especially in tournaments and practices, can to match our mindsets in practices with games is going to help build our confidence a ton. So starting to sort of bridge those gaps, not just with your physical skills, but with your mental skills as well. Really important. And I think it's going to be super helpful in sort of starting to build the confidence as we get into really long tournaments, really competitive play, and even qualifiers starting next month. So as always, reach out to me with any questions, any comments you have. Feel free to share your sheets with me if you ever see me, or with your coaches if you're feeling okay about that. And as always, go Sting.